Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is the next video in the what and the how series of UiPath. In this series, I try to answer the queries which I receive over my email, over the comments in the YouTube or over my Instagram channel. So this time I have received an email from one of the subscriber who is facing an issue with an activity which is called the Find Children activity. So this is the email which I received, and this is a pretty interesting one, right? So he has written me an email where he says that I'm following your videos on UiPath and it's easy to understand. Thank you for the amazing content and thank you for writing the email. Now after that he says that I am practicing a project where he wants to have a list of all the websites from a CoWIN website, and Find Children activity is not able to get the list of the states. Okay, so let me show you the website. This is how it looks like, and if you see here, there is a state drop down which is available, right? And this has all the states which are available in India. Now those of you who are an experienced developer, you might know that if I have to get all these lists from this drop down, I can simply use an activity which is called the Find Children activity. But in this case, the Find Children activity is not working as it should. Now, how I should resolve such scenarios, right? So that is what we are going to do today. Is I am going to show you how exactly the Find Children works in the regular way and how you can do such automation when the Find Children is not working as expected. Okay, so if you are following up the channel, you would have noticed that I have created a dedicated video on how do you use Find Children to get value from this drop down. Okay, in case you haven't already watched that, I have put this video link in here. You could always refer that video, so that would help you to understand how does the Find Children work, right? So this use case we are going to quickly touch upon this one, and then we are going to differentiate that why it is not able to get the values. Okay, so let's get started. I am going to my UiPath Studio. I have created a new project here. I'll go to the design and create a new sequence. I'll call this sequence as Find Children. Okay, Find Children demo, and I'll hit create. Whenever we create an automation, as a good practice, it is always nice to name the workflow properly. Okay, once that is done, let's first take a look at this one, which is called the fake name generator. I simply go to the activities and search here Find Children. Okay, in the UI automation element find, you would have an activity called Find Children. Drag and drop the activity here. Once it is available, I simply go and click on indicate on screen, which means I have to tell UiPath that from where I want the list of all the values. Okay, I'll go here, indicate on screen, and point it to the drop down, which is the country drop down where I want to get all the values. I simply go and click on this one. Now, once it is available here, if I simply go to the properties, and in the output you would see the output variable is not available here. So I quickly go here and I hit Control plus K, that is the shortcut to create the variable, and I would say that this is an children variable and this is for selecting the country, right? So what would happen? UiPath will automatically create a variable for me which is called the children country, and it is an I enumerable of UI element. Okay, now this we have already discussed in the previous video, so I am quickly going to show you that how does it work. So I just drag and drop an activity here which is called write line. I'll put a debugger on this one which is called a breakpoint. Save the automation and run this automation by clicking on this guy which is called debug file. Now what we are trying to do here, Find Children is going to get all the list of the drop down, and it is going to store those in this variable which is called the children country. So if I go to the locals, you would notice that the children count in the variable is coming as 31. which means that it is now able to get me all the 31 elements from the drop down. One other way of checking that, if you go here in the children, you could see that the UI element is 31. If I click on this guy, the small, you would notice that here I am getting all the list of countries from the drop down, right? So this I have already covered in the previous videos, that if I have to get all of this thing, how I can get this from the UI element one by one. But now talking about this video, what happens if I am not able to get the UI element in the first place in this location? How would I select all the items? So that is where I am going to create the same automation in a new sequence, and now this time on this website. Okay, the concept is same. It is having a drop down, it is also having a drop down. Okay, let me go back to UiPath Studio. I'll go here and I'll create a new sequence. I'll call this sequence as find children, and this time we are going to do it on the Covin website. So I'll just write Covin. Okay. Now the same concept. I'll go to the activities and I'll use something which is called find children. Now I hope you got an idea about the find children and how does it actually work in the happy scenarios, I would say. I'll go here, click on indicate on screen and point it to this guy like this. Okay, the same concept. I'll go to the project properties and here let me hit Control plus K and create a variable called children's. Okay, after that I'll put a right line activity, drag and drop the right line activity here, and I'll simply put a breakpoint. I'll save this automation and debug the file. Okay, last time when I triggered the automation, in the drop down I was successfully able to get all the values right in the variables. So what is my variable here? The variable name is children's. I go to the locals, and now if you see here in the children's, I am only getting one element. Also in here in the children, I am not getting all the values from the drop down, right? Ideally in the drop down you would see that there are all these values. Now if I have such a situation where I want to get values which are not coming like this, how can I use the find children activity, right? So that is what we are going to explore today. Now in such scenarios, other alternative which you can do and that might work for you is that first of all we need to expand this drop down and then use the find children on all of these elements, not directly on the drop down but by expanding the drop down. Okay, let us see how does that happen. I simply go here, and if I ask you guys, if I have to open this drop down, how you are opening this drop down? So how I am opening the drop down? I am simply clicking on this small arrow button and that's it, right? It opens the drop down for me. So the same thing I am going to do here. I'll just get rid of all of this here first, right? So it's a clean sequence now. So the first thing is I want to use an activity which is called click, because first I want to click on the drop down, indicate on screen and point it to this small guy, the down arrow, this guy, and this click I will say that this is a click activity to open the menu, right? So it is always good to rename the activity so that we know what we are doing. Once this menu is open, it will be something like this. Now apply the find children on this value whatever you seeing on the screen, and let us see what output we get, and then we take the next step. Okay, I'll go to the activities and this time I'll again go and select something which is called find children. Okay, indicate it on the screen something like this. I don't have to select the single value like this, I have to select this complete drop down. Okay, I go here and simply click on this one. Now I am telling UiPath to get me the list of value from all of these. Now if I go to the properties, I'll simply do the same thing again. I'll go here and I'll store this thing in the children's variable which we have already created. I'll save this automation, go to the activities, and then to check whether it is working fine or not, or I am getting the values, I'll use an activity which is called the write line activity. After this, same concept, I'll hit a breakpoint here, and this time this is collapsed, right? So I'll go here and I simply say debug the file. Okay, we'll just wait for the automation to load and see how it goes. Okay, the automation has started. It has opened the drop down. Now the find children activity will work and it will extract the list of all these items. Yes, my debugger is hit now. Now I want to check what are the values. I simply go to the locals. And now if you notice here in the children's, I am getting 37 items. Okay. So if I simply click on this guy, which says the search kind of button, view more, I could see that I am getting all the options here, the 37 items. So let me just copy it to clipboard. I'll open Notepad++ to analyze it better. Paste whatever I have got here, right? So now if you notice here, I am getting a total of 37 UI elements. These are all the values from that guy. But the thing to notice here is I am not getting still the name of the states from the drop down. However, I am getting something which is called the selector. I am getting the selector here, but I am not getting the drop down value. So this is pretty strange for me, right? I actually require all these values. I require Andaman and Nicobar, Andhra Pradesh, Arunachal Pradesh. That is not still coming on the find children, but I am getting something which is called the selector. Now, is there something I can do with this selector? Let's try to find out, right? So I'll go back to my UiPath Studio. I'll close this guy. I'll hit stop this automation because I wanted to have this. This I have already got. Okay. Now I'll simply go to the design tab, and from here I am going to click on something which is called UI Explorer. Now what is UI Explorer? This is a standalone advanced selector tool that let us to analyze the selector whichever we are having. With the help of UI Explorer, I can actually go and spy on the selector at a much deeper level. In case you don't understand what is UI Explorer, I have this dedicated video where I am explaining each and every bit of UI Explorer. So in case if you are new, please go and watch this video. That will definitely help you. Okay. Now here, if you notice here in the drop down in the UI element, I am getting all of these things, but I am not getting the value. But there is something which I am getting, which is called the selector, right? This guy. Let me just copy and paste this selector from here, right? So it starts from here, double quotes, and it is ending here. So let me just copy this selector from here, something like this, and paste this selector in the UI Explorer. Okay, and I click on validate. The selector is a valid selector, which means that UiPath is telling me whatever you have given me is a valid selector. Now if I go here, you would see something that I have got on the right hand side, which is called the properties window. And you could see that in the inner text, I have the value which I am interested in, right? Andhra Pradesh. So if I simply go here and let's take some other value from this one. I'll take this selector. Okay. Copy this, take it to UI Explorer and simply paste it. I click on validate. UiPath will search the value and it is telling me that this value is for Chhattisgarh, right? The inner text of this selector. So basically it is telling me that whatever selector you are getting, if you are able to get the inner text also in this selector, I will be able to give you the name. But when I use the find children is not giving me the inner text which I require. Now how do I get the inner text from each and every selector? That is what the task is. I hope you are following along with me, right? So let's go back to my UiPath Studio. So we understood the problem statement, right? So the problem statement is we explored all of this, and I was expecting, because when we did the previous video, right, there, if I used to get directly the inner text here, I could have directly extracted it, but I'm not getting this. How do I get it now? For that, let us go back to UiPath and let me drag and drop an activity which is called the for each. Now what is for each activity? It is used to loop the list, right? So if I go to the variables, you would notice that I have this IEnumerable list of UI elements, right? It is a generic list of UI elements. So I need to iterate it. I want to perform some operation on each and everything. So I'll simply go to the activities and drag and drop an activity from the control and the for each. Drag and drop the activity on the canvas for each item, and this time what do I want to iterate? I want to iterate the children's. Done. If you go to the properties now, this is a newly updated feature of UiPath. As soon as you provide this one, the type argument is automatically updated to uipath.core.uielement. It does not used to happen previously, but now this is an advanced thing which has already come, and this is pretty good, right? It saves us a time. So now what we are telling UiPath, for each item in children. So what is this item? This item is nothing but all these tags. This guy. This is one UI element, second, third, fourth, fifth, right? So in the item variable, we are going to get all these values one by one. First I'll get this, second I'll get this, third I'll get this. Okay. Now from this value, what is the value which I am interested in? I am interested in this guy which is called the selector, right? So let me go here and I'll use an assign activity. Okay, something like this. What I'll do is I'll get this selector out of this UI element, because when I am looping it in the loop, I am getting all these element one by one. First I'll get this, second I'll get this, third, fourth, like this, right? So first time I'll only get this guy. So from this guy I am interested in the selector. When I am getting the second item from the list, I only want the selector. So for that, to store the selector, let me create a variable here. I'll hit Ctrl+K and I'll call this as selector. Okay, and a selector variable would be created here, which is of type string as of now, right? What do I want in the selector thing? In the selector, whatever item I have got, item, I will put a dot, right? And I simply write selector. Do you see this guy? Item dot selector. Okay, and if you notice here, it is telling me that the property output is coming as a selector, right? So UI element property, whatever we require, the output is going to be a selector. So I simply select item dot selector. Now why I have selected item dot selector? Because I have seen in the UI Explorer that the value which I am interested in is this guy, and the name of the value is selector. That's why gone here and put simply dot selector. Now again I am getting an error. It is telling me that I am not able to convert my string variable, my selector variable, to the string, right? Because item dot selector is giving me a selector and my variable is of the type, if I just go to the variable here, my variable is of type string. So it is not able to convert selector to string, right? So what can I do? I'll go to this one and I can simply browse for type, and if I simply search here selector, I can change the data type, right? So I will select this one, uipath.core.selector, and hit OK. That's it, right? So this guy in the assign activity, what we are doing nothing but we are getting the selectors. That's it. Okay, so this is done. I have this selector now. So when I run this automation, first time I'll get this, second time I'll get this, third time I'll get this, and so on, right? Let's try to validate before we proceed. I'll quickly go here and use something which is called a write line activity. Drag and drop the write line activity here, and I simply want to print the selector dot to string because we are trying to print the selector, right? Save this in here. Let me close this drop down because we have written a code to open it, right? So now if I run this automation, I should get all the selectors for all of these guys, right? Let's try to validate that. I'll go here and simply say run the file. Okay, I'll just open this one. Automation has started. It has opened the drop down. Now it would be exporting everything, and now it should have printed all the selectors. Let me go to the output, and yes, you could see that now I am getting all the selectors, right, one by one, which is printed here. But now the value which I was interested is not available here, right? Let's quickly validate the last value. What is that? I'll just go here and copy this, take it to the UI Explorer and simply paste it here. Click on validate, and the last value is West Bengal, right, from this selector. Now I have all these selectors which are available in here, and I want to get the inner text out of this selector. Okay, I hope you are understanding what we are doing. So first we got all this selector, we printed them. I used UI Explorer to see where exactly is the value which I am interested in, and it is in the inner text, and the last value is West Bengal. Let me quickly go to the portal and quickly validate what is the last value here. It's West Bengal, right? So that means at least I am able to get all these data. Okay, now what do I want to do? From the selector, which is this guy, right, which I am getting on the drop down, right? So as we have seen, this is what we are getting, right, in the output list. This is what we are getting, right? I'll just copy any one of those and take it to the notepad here. So from this selector, I want to get the inner text. So to get that, we have an activity which is called get attribute. This activity again I have explained in detail in the previous videos. I'll put the link of the get attribute in the details, so feel free to explore that video. That will give you a clarity on this. Okay, I'm going to get something which is called the get attribute and drag and drop it here. Okay, we can just, for now, I'll just delete the write line because I have seen that it is working properly. In the get attribute, if I go to the properties, in the target, right, you see this is all the target which it requires. What is the selector? As an input, I need to provide it that what is the selector. Now if you go to the selector property, you would notice that it is expecting a selector. Now where is my selector? My selector is available in the selector variable, right? We have seen that here in the output, right? When I was printing it, I was getting each and every selector. So now what is the next action? Pass the selector to the get attribute. So I go to the properties, and in here I can simply pass the selector. That's it. And it's breaking because, okay, so this selector is telling me that I am expecting a string. Okay, no worries. Dot to string. Now you could actually go and directly pass the item dot selector here. That also will work, right? So again, depends on your implementation. I have first time I have stored it in the selector variable like here, but if you directly make it string, you could directly pass the selector variable because the get attribute activity is expecting a string. So I simply made dot to string, right? And we have seen that when I was printing with the help of dot to string, I was getting this value. Now the next question here. In the get attribute, if you go to the properties, it is asking us, tell me which attribute you are interested in. Okay, let's check the attribute which we are interested in. We are interested in the inner text, right? So if I go here and in the attribute list, I simply select inner text, right? it is available. Now in your case, if you are not getting the inner text or something here which is available here but you are not getting in the drop down, this is a free text, right? You can write any value here, right? So I can write, let's say Mukesh is the attribute, so I can simply write Mukesh Kala here and that would work, right? But for us, I am getting inner text, so I'll simply go and select the inner text. UiPath is asking me where do you want to store the value. I'll quickly hit Ctrl plus K, create a variable called state, and this is the variable where I want to store the value of the state. After that, what do I want to do? I want to simply use a write line activity to print the value of the state. So whatever output I am getting on the inner text stored in this variable, pass that thing to str state. That's it. Save the automation. I'll go here and I simply run this automation now. Now what is the expectation? The expectation is if I run this automation, I should get all these name of the states one by one from the drop down. Okay, so I'll go here and I'll simply say, let me just, yeah, it's closed already. So I'll go here and say run the file. Okay, let me just pull up this guy. Automation has started. It has pulled up the list of details. Now it should extract all of this, put it in a find children, get us the selector, from the selector get the inner text, and then print those values in the console. Okay, automation completed. I can see there are no errors, and in the output, let me just expand it. You could see that I am getting all the list of the values from the drop down, and this is what I wanted to do, correct? Now what I can do with this automation, once you have this variable available here, right, str state, here I can write any piece of automation. I can use the select item if you want to store this value, if you want to create different Excel sheet as per the state, whatever you wanted to do, you can always do. What is the benefit here? Tomorrow, in case the number of state are increasing or decreasing, right? Tomorrow, let's say new states are getting added, some states are getting removed from the list. Your automation is intact because you are not hard coding anything, right? Okay. So that is how you use the find children activities. Let's quickly summarize what have we learned in this video. First of all, we have learned that in case I want to get a list of items from a drop down, I can use an activity which is called a find children activity. Find children activity, simply when it works, it gives you the list of items in the UI element, and usually whenever you work you will get that item whichever you are interested in this here. If that is available, you can simply watch this video where I have covered it, and you can use the get attribute to get the details. But sometimes what happen, as we have seen, that when we use the find children, it is not able to get the values, right? So what do? We just open it, then we extract, and when we extract, we analyze the selector. We analyze the selector. When analyzing the selector, I am using something which is called UI Explorer. From the UI Explorer, I got to know that yes, the value which I was interested is in the inner text, right? So now when I got the value, the third concept which I got to learn is that how actually I can use the get attribute, and then I simply printed it, right? So I hope now you understand that how exactly can you use find children in the places where it is not behaving as it should. Okay, so I hope you like this video. If you have any more question regarding this topic or any of the automation point where you want more explanation or you are getting stuck, you can always drop me a note on the email ID which is mentioned in the description, and I shall revert to you as soon as possible. So I would like to wrap this video here. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please do subscribe to the channel, and happy automation.